Hey, welcome back. This is Jackie Hauser with Flexner Hauser Injury Law. We are here with another episode of Laughter in the Law. I have another guest with me today from Wells Insurance. I have Jorge Pena, and we are going to talk to you today about auto insurance. Do not turn off this podcast. This is very important stuff. I preach this all the time to my clients. Everything we're going to talk about today, but I'm going to tell you, most of the time whenever folks are sitting with me around this table, they've already been in an accident and they don't have the coverages that they need to protect their families. That if they'd have had it a day before, it would have made a tremendous difference. So we're going to talk about auto insurance today and the things that you need to know. You don't have to call up your insurance agent. You don't have to go online. I got an expert right here in Jorge, and he's going to talk to us. Jorge, tell me about your experience with auto insurance.
So with auto insurance, it's, of course, something that everyone needs, and it's just going to provide protection for yourself, the people in the vehicle, and then also your vehicle if it's damaged. So it's important to, of course, not carry minimum coverage. Mm-hmm. You want adequate coverage to make sure that you're protected adequately.
And you are employed here in Wilmington with Wells Insurance, correct?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
How long have you been there?
I've been there over 10 years.
And you work primarily in the, what do we call it, that line of insurance with auto in it? What is it called?
It's personal lines.
The personal lines, exactly. And just let me go ahead and put this out there. I use Wells Insurance. They insure all my commercial property, my commercial building, and our workers' comp, and all of our insurances here. And so I've always found them great to work with. Mr. Flexner used them before me. And so, just note to self, I'm a proponent of Wells Insurance, sending floods of people your way. They are good people and good to work with for sure.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming in and taking some time off of work to talk to us about this.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
I think these topics are just super important.
I agree.
And like I told you off camera, I wish that I could tell every single person the day before their accident about their coverages and what we needed to fix before they had an accident, right?
Yeah, that's important.
So important things are happening in North Carolina in the auto industry, auto insurance industry, starting in January 1st.
Yes, we're going to be seeing rate increases across the board with all carriers throughout the state, and it's simply because the cost to repair vehicles have increased. Accidents have increased. Mm-hmm. Newer technology means that repairing the vehicles, replacing parts, so on and so forth, is just costing more.
Right. So, North Carolina, as of right now, whenever we're doing this in 2024, we're doing this and we're going to broadcast it in 2025. As of January 1st, we go from a minimum limit policy of $30,000 per person, $60,000 per accident, to $50,000 per person and $100,000 per accident. That's a significant increase. I think I read, I was reading some of the, there's a lot of hype about it right now on both sides of the aisle. I think now we have one of the highest minimum limits policies in the nation.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because there are some other states where I write in and their minimums could be anywhere from $40,000, which is $20,000 per person, $40,000 total, and as low as even $15,000 per person, $30,000 max.
That's crazy.
So it is. That's maybe a couple hours in ER.
Yeah.
It's not going to cover much.
And $20,000 for a car doesn't cover much of a car.
No, nowadays, no.
No. So, and the property damage minimums are going up as well. They were in 2024, they were $25,000, and starting January 1st of 2025, they go up to $50,000.
Yes, that's going to be helpful. It's still recommended to carry higher limits, but again, that's something that we could discuss.
Yeah, we're going to talk about those higher limits in a minute. Tell me this, though, even if in 2025, with the higher limits that we're now imposing, the 50-100, where it's 100 per accident, 50,000 per person, why should someone, if you believe this, why should someone not carry the minimum limits?
It's simply for protection. Once you're in an accident and you injure someone, if they're in the hospital, just one day in the hospital could cost you that $50,000, maybe even $100,000, depending on the severity of the accident. So we have a standard where carrying 100, 300 is what we consider standard. Of course, there are higher limits to carry more protection. And then at the same time, you want to protect your assets as well, because once your limits are reached, you have to pay. So they're going to go after other assets that you may own.
Yeah. Before I did this on the plaintiff side, I did do some work on the defense side, and I have seen plaintiffs sue defendants who caused the accident, who had minimum limits, but the injuries were so astronomical that they actually sued them for their personal assets. So it does happen.
Oh, certainly.
And, you're exposing yourself tremendously whenever you may have a house, you may have a car, you may have 2 houses, and then you're exposing all those assets whenever you only carry a minimum limits policy, and then somebody in your household causes an accident that creates great damage and great harm to somebody. So it's really not the most intelligent thing to do whenever you have things that you need to protect. Not only persons you need to protect, but also your property you need to protect from any type of excess verdict. I tell folks all the time, you just don't need to be riding around with minimum limits because of that.
No, that's correct. And you want to have the value there, not simply looking for the lowest premium.
Exactly. And once you start comparing premiums, the premiums they don't double or triple just because you move up a notch.
Oh, not at all.
Yeah.
We're talking maybe just under $100 or just at that $100 mark, just to carry higher limits.
Yeah.
So the value's there. It's understanding why you have those coverages.
Yeah.
What are they protecting you from?
So beyond carrying your BI, what we call our BI policy, our bodily injury and our property damage policy, the other thing that I think is very important on your policy is the underinsurance or underinsured motorist coverage. We abbreviate it with UIM. Tell clients what UIM coverage is.
Yes. So uninsured motorist coverage is protection against folks who don't have any insurance or not enough insurance. So someone who's carrying minimum limits, they injure you in an accident, they're at fault. So their limits on their policy is going to be reached just because they're carrying low limits. So you having that uninsured motorist coverage is going to add that difference that may cause dollar wise. So if your stay at the hospital is X amount of dollars, their limit is reached, your policy would kick in and cover the difference.
Right. And folks a lot of times argue with me and say, well, why do I have to use my insurance? Why do I have to use my insurance? I'm like,
that's the whole purpose of insurance, in case something happens.
That's right. Let's look up the definition of insurance. We have insured against this bad event, right?
Yeah.
So this person doesn't have all the insurance that they should have. They've caused a bad event, and now we've been injured. And so, we have protected ourselves and protected the people in our family and in our car.
That's right.
By having the insurance that we need to cover that. So that's why we use our insurance.
That's right.
That's what you pay for.
That's right. You want to protect yourself.
Yeah.
You can't worry about what others are doing.
I'm telling you, I think not only just not having the minimum limits policy, but also having proper underinsured and uninsured motorist coverage to protect your family. If you think about a family of 4 traveling around at Christmas. I read about a horrible accident. I read about it. It happened over Christmas, and it was in California. But this family of 5 was on their way to visit for Christmas and got hit by somebody who ran a red light, killed 4 of the 5 people in the car.
Wow.
And that's horrible.
Yeah.
And the only thing that could help with that tragedy, because that's just awful, is being able to know that you had coverage to protect yourself and protect against these type of the injuries of the poor girl that survived.
Yeah.
But that happens every day on the highways.
Yeah.
Happens every day in every city. Somebody makes a mistake, and somebody's either severely injured or we have a fatality. And you got to be covered for that.
Oh, yeah.
Even if it's just, and a lot of times whenever I have folks come in here, they've just been out of work for 2, I can't go back to work. I can't work in this condition, or I can't work because of my injury. And, they're losing income.
Yeah.
And so just knowing that they have the proper coverage to protect themselves, we certainly are going to go after the other guys first and go after their policy first. But hey, here's your security blanket. You got UIM, right?
Yeah.
And so I stress underinsured or UIM coverage the most because that is something you do to protect yourself and your family, right?
Correct. And a lot of folks who have insurance simply because, one, they need it, and then also they're looking at the bottom line. What's the cheapest? What are my costs? They're not thinking about the event that could occur.
Right.
So protect yourself against those events. Simply.
Yeah. I agree. I think sometimes, especially with the TV ads that you see, and all the insurance companies want to tout how much they can save you on your coverage.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to get the best coverage at the best price, but I want the best coverage.
Correct. Yes.
I'm not worried about running around with a T-shirt that says I saved $400 for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I want to have the best coverage that there is. Absolutely. So let's talk about property damage for a little bit, especially on like new cars, and explain to our, because this happens so often. We have a couple of problems with property damage. Sometimes people or it doesn't have to be a new car, but sometimes people don't have what's called comprehensive coverage or collision coverage. Can you explain the difference between those two coverages?
Yes. So there are also other terms for it. So there's collision, which is at-fault accidents. If you're at fault, that's going to protect your vehicle against damage that you caused if you're at fault. Comprehensive is also considered other than collision. So any type of event that is not your fault. So if you hit an animal, if you hit a tree, if you, again, run over a curb and causes damage to your vehicle. So any type of weather event is considered comprehensive or other than collision. So that is to repair your vehicle.
And that's usually good coverage to have just to protect your own vehicle, to protect yourself.
Certainly. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So usually one goes with the other. And especially if you have a newer vehicle, you certainly want to carry comprehensive and collision, just because the cost to repair vehicles nowadays is just a lot more expensive than what it used to be 10 years ago.
Right. And then also with newer vehicles, and I've seen the price of new vehicles, which this tells you I'm going to age myself. I'm going to. The price of new vehicles are now about the price of my first house. I'm just astounded at the cost of new vehicles now. But with a lot of new vehicles now, dealerships offer something called gap insurance. But I know you also offer something called replacement vehicle policy.
A vehicle replacement that depends on the carrier as well. So on newer vehicles, so they have to be in the same year that we're in and that you purchased, brand new. So once the vehicle leaves the lot, of course, it's going to depreciate
by about 20%.
Just about.
Yeah.
So if there's a total loss on the vehicle, having that vehicle replacement will replace the vehicle instead of just giving you what is considered actual cash value. So the depreciated value of the vehicle.
Yeah. And we see that happening a lot. I'm telling you, people sit around this table all the time. I had a lady in here not long ago. She had the vehicle for 3 weeks. And then it was totaled.
Wow.
And she had no gap insurance, and she had no replacement vehicle policy. And, she was certainly concerned about her injuries, but just as well, she knew she was going to lose a lot of money on her property damage. So that is, and it's not expensive. It's super cheap.
No, it's very inexpensive. And again, these are conversations that your agent should be having with you when you purchase a vehicle.
Yeah. Well, now, what if you think, hey, I'm just going to go online and buy my insurance? I can go on that website and just pick and choose what I want.
It sounds very easy, but do you understand what you're purchasing?
Right.
Do you understand the importance of carrying higher limits? What is it protecting? So yeah, of course it's easy, but just when the time comes, when you actually need the insurance, are you going to be satisfied with what you purchased?
Right. I just like the fact, and I told you this story off camera, I'll bore you with it again on camera, but I just like the fact of being able to pick up the phone, and if I need to, I can say, I need to speak to Jorge.
That's right.
And, you're my insurance guy. I'm calling Wells Insurance. I'm talking to my person. And I told you this story many years ago. I had an insurance agent, and my new policy came in, and my rates were going up, and I just got a little miffed, and I said, I'm just going to go online and buy my policy. And so that's what I did. I canceled that policy. I went online. I did I'm going to say $400 in 15 minutes thing. And that was all great until I had a claim. And then once I had a claim, it was a nightmare. I'm never talking to the same person twice. They're asking me every time I call in, it's tell us your claim numbers, tell us your policy number, tell us this, tell us that. And I just learned my lesson. And that was 6 months. That was the 6-month period. Once I came up to renew my policy again, I went back to my agent and just said, please take me back. and from then on out, and I remember after that, we had a hurricane. I was out of town. We had a hurricane, and he literally called me from my front yard and said, your roof is fine. Everything's good on your roof. I just want to let you know. Don't know about inside the house. There could have been leakage. There could have been all kinds of things happening inside, but at least I knew my roof was fine.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's why you have an agent.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that just paid for my agent right there. I was like, send that man a bottle of wine. But anyway, and ever since then, I have avoided the going online and buying insurance. I'd rather pick up the phone and call my agent. So I highly recommend it. And you guys are always so responsive. So I appreciate that as well.
It's our pleasure.
Let's talk about one more thing, and then we'll wrap it up here. There's something that a lot of folks, I don't know why they don't know about it. Maybe it's because they are buying online insurance, but there's coverage called medical payments coverage. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so medical payments coverage, that's going to protect you and others in your vehicle when there is an accident. So that is an optional coverage to carry. So if you have health insurance, you could still carry medical payments coverage. That'll help pay for deductible if you're injured severely in an accident. If you don't have health insurance, then yes, that's something that we strongly recommend carrying, just because, of course, we all know medical bills are very expensive, and that'll help reduce the cost simply just having that coverage on your auto policy.
Yeah. And different policies, different providers have different limits that they give you, right?
That is correct. Yeah. So some carriers offer a maximum of $5,000, some carriers $10,000, $25,000, and even up to $100,000. Just really depends on their insurance carrier, what they offer.
But that's per person in the vehicle, right?
Correct. That is per person.
So if there's 4 of us in the vehicle and we got a $5,000 medical payments coverage, then technically we've got 5, 5, 5, 5.
That is correct.
Right?
Yeah.
If each person has that much in their medical bill.
Yes, yeah.
Because it pays medical bills. But it also pays it generally pays it to the insured, correct? Or to the injured person.
To the injured person,
right.
Yes. Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily pay it to the hospital. It pays it because, like you say, you may have deductibles, you may have out-of-pocket expenses, but those things are paid through the medical payments coverage, separate and apart from your personal injury, separate and apart from all the other coverages.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if you have a high deductible plan, that's always a good thing to have.
It is. Yeah. Well, if you're a family, you are already carrying a high deductible, so that definitely is helpful.
Yeah. And it's not, once again, probably the cheapest insurance you'll ever buy is medical payments coverage.
It is very inexpensive.
Yeah.
Even carrying a $10,000 limit, we're talking $70 for the year.
Yeah.
So it kind of pays for itself once, God forbid, you're in an event.
Yeah. Once you factor it into what it would cost you per month or per week, it really is a very inexpensive way to protect you and your family.
Yeah.
Tell me this. If somebody just wanted to come in and ask you about their insurance and whether or not their insurance was adequate, explain their family situation, how many cars they have, how many passengers, how many other drivers they have, is that something that you would do?
Yes, ma'am, it would be. We would advise our prospects or current clients to come into the office, bring their declarations page. That is the documents that's going to provide all that information, what their current coverages are, what endorsements they have, their vehicles, the drivers. So it's pretty much going to have everything that we need to take a look at what they have compared to what we can offer. And then also we can make recommendations on, okay, you have this on this policy. This is why we recommend this on our policy.
Right.
So it's just in-depth conversation that we can have with the declarations page.
Right. And that's the first thing I ask for as well whenever they come in. Let me see your deck page. And that's whenever we start talking about those coverages and where they do have great coverage and where they may not. But I do the same thing. So that's I appreciate that. And that's a good service to provide. All right. Well, you've been fabulous. I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Tell me this, if you have one more thing, and you may not, but if you have one more thing, what's the most important thing? If you could sit with a new customer sitting across the table from you, what's the most important thing that you would want them to know about choosing their auto insurance?
So definitely don't look at the bottom line, which is the cost. We want to discuss all the coverages so you understand what you're purchasing and why is it important to carry the higher limits. So that's really the main thing is listen to the insurance professionals. They've been doing it for, as myself, 10 plus years. Our goal is to protect you in the event something should occur.
Yeah.
So that would be my takeaway is just listen to what we're trying to tell you. It's for your benefit. It's certainly not for our benefit.
Yeah. And if events didn't occur, then I wouldn't be in business.
Likewise.
So we know that they occur.
Yes,
They're
ma'am.
going to occur, right?
Oh, yeah. And more frequent than ever. You know, there are more vehicles out on the road now. More accidents are occurring. The cost to fix vehicles, replace vehicles, it's everything is increasing, which until why our premiums are increasing.
Right. Absolutely. I think that's the best advice ever is that, it's going to occur and you need to be prepared for it.
That's right.
Don't let the unexpected surprise you.
That is correct. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. And thank you guys for sticking with us and learning what you need to know about auto insurance and being well informed about it. Pull out your deck page, look at it, take it to Jorge or bring it to me. I will look at your deck page and tell you what I believe coverages should be at a minimum, and he will as well. And tune in again next time for Laughter in the Law, where we talk about the law with a lighthearted twist.